Alright guys, what's up? We're gonna go over the backtested results. I just got done backtesting everything, and if I were smart about this, I would probably wait until tomorrow to actually go over the results, but I already put out the one video. I just wanted to put this one out and say, alright, it's done. Let's take a look at some of the basic results, and then I'm sure we can deep dive into some of the statistics later. The general premise behind the backtest, for those that have not watched the really boring hour-long video, is that anytime we test a zone from the top, we are looking for well, here's an example. If we test a zone from the bottom, we're looking for a type 1 entry, we're looking for a type 2 entry. With a type 1 entry having the profit set at a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio, and a type 2 entry having a 3-to-1 risk to reward ratio. Uh, in most instances, well, actually in all instances, that means that the type 2 is actually going to hit profit while you still have the type 1 on. Basically, what this ends up doing is you're in your type 1, you push in, you hit your type 2, and that brings down, well, it makes your average cost better. In the if you're shorting something, it's going to pull up your average cost, and that means when the charts go down, you're getting further away from that average cost. Therefore, it's a better average cost. If you're buying, same principle, type 1, type 2, your average cost will be lower, meaning when it pushes up, you're going to lock in more profit when you hit that 3-to-1 risk to reward ratio. The moment that you hit that, you hit profit on a type 2, you go ahead and put another limit order on to get another type 2 filled. And so that leads to some really interesting results. Because what I ended up discovering, and the reason that I really like this, is there are a couple of trades that actually had two different type 2 trades. And so you'd be in a type 1, you'll take a type 2, you'll make profit on the type 2, it'll push back up, you'll take another type 2, and then you take a loss on the type 1 and your second type 2, but the trade itself still ends up being a green trade because of the profit that you took on that one type 2. Which really informs my actual trading, because one of the things that I've been absolutely terrible at, I don't think I've managed to do it yet, is actually take a type 2 and let it run all the way to profit. I get really weirded out about trying to do that. So I actually need to make sure that that's something that I'm doing for this trading system, because that's where you really start to pick up the pace and start to pick up some of that extra profit is on those type 2 entries. So I wish that I could go and do a detailed breakdown of here's how type 1s work out, here's how type 2s work out. But the issue that I'm having is Trader Sync. The only way that I can run the test is um, like this series of interactions here, and I don't even have these arrows, like these entry arrows aren't accurate because this is my actual account. The back test I actually traded properly. This is one that I'm kicking myself for not trading properly, but that's neither here nor there. So um, because of the way that this trade is set up, right? We tagged out down here. Um, it actually tagged me out right here. And in the back test, this would have been a tricky one in real life because it's 3 o'clock in the morning, so I did not actually get that entry. I want to know if there's some way to automate that. That's neither here nor there right now, but for backtesting purposes, tagged out of the trade, hit my stop loss down here, pushed up, we got the type 1, type 2, pushed down, took profit on the type 2, pushed back up, type 2, took profit on the type 2, took profit on the type 2, then took profit on the type 1. So that trade, when I tag it in TraderSync, is being tagged as a couple of different things. For one, it's a break and retest. It's type 1, type 2 again, type 2 a third time. And so you really don't get a good understanding of, okay, how do my type 1s actually perform? How do my type 2s actually perform? Because that whole mess of one entry, two entry, take profit, another entry, take profit, another entry, take profit, take profit. That's all one trade with the way that it breaks down in TraderSync. So that one trade is represented by this mess right here, and it's saying that it was a $5,000 trade, which the math lines up, right? Just given those entries, if you were actually able to take all those entries, Of course, you have to think about slippage and blah blah blah. Backtested results. This is like the ideal situation, but it does help inform my actual trading. So this is logged as one trade. That's a $5,000 profit on this one trade, but you can see there was a whole lot that went into this trade. And if we go down here and take a look at it, your type 2 is right around here, and your type 1 is right about there. And the other really annoying thing, these arrows actually all need to be moved over one. I realized at the very end of probably another 2 hours of sitting on my couch and running through this back test that the times that I was entering, when you manually enter a trade, you tell it what time you took the trade. And TradingView, for some reason, has been doing this really dumb thing where it's been resetting to Chicago time, and I'm in Eastern Standard Time, so my times are off. Uh, so there you have it. These arrows actually should be over here, but you can see general concept, lots of entries, lots of interaction. The arrows are in the wrong spots right now, which is super annoying, but I do not have the patience to go through and fix something like that, so we're not doing that. So, what do the actual results look like? Well, you can see the widgets that I have at the top of the screen, so if you haven't even been listening to me, you can just pay attention to what's on the screen. But here we go. This is running from April 1st up through Friday, June 3rd, which is the last available trading day, so it's as up to date as it can be, going all the way back to April. We have an accumulated return of $25,000. This is risking $500 max per trade. And when I say per trade, I should probably say per entry. So a type 1, you're risking 500. When you add on to that type 2, you're risking an additional 500. So that's how that's been figured. Assuming you start with a $50,000 account, this is non-compounding, by the way. I'm risking the same amount every single trade. So this result actually, obviously real life is going to be different than back-tested results, but if you're compounding and scaling up your trading size as your account size is growing, I expect that you would actually see this number go up pretty rapidly in comparison to just risking the same every single time. So that's something worth keeping in mind. We have the daily return. Ignore that. That number's not right. You're not making 25 grand a day. Those are some Don numbers right there. We don't have that skill set yet. The profit to loss ratio is showing a 1.9 to 1, so that's pretty darn close to that 2 to 1. That's the number that I really care about, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out for the sake of the longevity of this system, because our average winner is about 1,600 and our average loser is about $866. So we need to either bump up those winners or bump down those losers a little bit to keep that true 2 to 1 risk to reward ratio, assuming a 50% win rate. And that's sort of the standard that I'm working on right now. I understand it's possible to do way better than that, but if you maintain a 2 to 1 risk to reward ratio with a 50% win rate, then you're doing just fine. You're going to be consistently profitable trading. This is showing a total of 39 closed trades through the course of April up through the beginning of June, and a profit factor of 2.97. The profit factor is going to be an important number here because that is basically how many dollars you make for every dollar that you lose. So if your losing trades are losing $1, then you expect your winning trades to make $2.97. The reason that the profit factor is so high on this, and let's go back to the dashboard, is because the win rate so far for this system has been 61%. So if I'm aiming for 50% and I'm maintaining 61%, it's doing fantastic. And this is trading with absolutely no regard for what I personally think is going to happen on the charts. It is literally just letting the zones dictate the trading. So it's the weirdest concept to me, because there's many times I look at it and I'm like, I think it's going to do this, and the backtest just keeps making money where I would have been incorrect, which is why if you go back to my first ever backtest video, which I kind of did some stuff incorrectly, but it sort of demonstrated, oh, if I just trust the system and let the system play itself out, then we're actually looking at consistently profitable trading. The only thing I need to work on in my trading then is making sure that I have my zones correct, in case I don't have Don zones at some point. Um, and I did mention there's other things that have been changed, like in real time. Here's an example. Real time, I had this as the bottom of my speed bump zone was actually right about there. And so I've been tweaking the zones as we go along. So I do have the advantage for the backtest of having my zones dialed in perfectly. In most instances, it's only a couple points difference, so it doesn't make a huge difference. The other cool thing that I started doing is tagging these red lines on the charts to indicate where my stop loss should go, and then just sort of following that. And it's weird, um, but it's been working really well. It's helped prevent some issues like right here. Stop loss should be up here. This was a trade that in real life I got in short. I tagged out right here on this green candle, and then as soon as I tagged out, I set my limit orders to go long, and it just shot down and tagged me out going long. So that was actually me having my stop way too tight. I should have kept it up higher. And if I just played it based on this wick right here, which is where I've been basing it on for this zone, the trade would have actually ended up being a profitable type 2. And you actually would have had, I think, another. No, this is one of those trades that um, it bounced up out of the speed bump zone. We got a type 1, type 2. Type 2 hit profit. I don't think the type 1 ever hit profit on this. And then it pushed up and broke out. You took another type 2, you took a loss, but the whole trade was still profitable anyways. And we can take a look at that real quick. Let's do type 2 again. There we go. So there's only been 3 instances. There was that one, like I said, that one trade is being logged as a $5,000 winner. But here's another example of a $600 winner where we actually traded the type 2 twice. Remember that these arrows are going to be a little bit incorrect. Apparently a lot incorrect. So we shorted somewhere up here where there's not even candles being displayed. We came down and we hit profit on the type 2. We pushed back up. We shorted again, took another type 2, and then tagged out for a loss on that candle right there. So I took a loss on the type 1 and on the type 2, but the end result was a winner because the first type 2 was profitable. All of that to say that type 2s are fundamental to this trading system. Type 2s are also the ones that scare me the most because, as Don has said before, you are buying a bright red candle or you are shorting a bright green candle. Like it is the absolute, like, you're trying to get that bottom penny, and it is sort of terrifying to put that risk on. So I just need to stick with the system and force myself to do it. The final thing that I want to demonstrate here that's probably something worth looking at is going to be the break and retest setup. So break and retest, this trade's an outlier, right? Because there was a break and a retest. That's also the one that I probably would have been asleep at the time. So we're gonna just ignore $5,000 of profit on this. So that's looking at about $12,000 total profit. The interesting thing to me out of this set though is that you have an 84% win rate when you're looking at a break and retest. The profit factor is probably a little bit skewed. Actually, let's do this. For the sake of discussion here, we're going to get rid of this tag right here because I want to actually be able to look at it. There we go. So you're looking at a total return of about $12,300. Once again, risking $500 per entry. An 83% win rate with a profit factor of 7.85. Your average return on these trades is over $1,000. In other words, I think a break and a retest might be the sort of the entry that we're looking for to get more aggressive with the trade. And you can see some of these ended up being just wildly profitable. It's going to be worth paying attention to moving forward, um, because you have such a high win rate. And what I mean by break and retest, for those that are not as familiar with Don's terminology, is a trade like this. So on this trade in the back test, let's do, can I hide my entries and exits and all that? Whatever. You're just going to have to deal with all the lines. On a trade like this, we were trying to short it, short it, short it. This is one that I was talking about that ended up being you ended up taking a loss. Um, so, and you ended up taking a loss, but you still made profit on one type too. So this trade was actually green, even though I was trying to short it, and it really didn't work 2 out of 3 times. But the one time it did, made up for the rest of it. So you end up, we had the break, and in the back test, I retested on this candle. In real life, I re-entered on this candle. Um, Probably not the best habit to get into. I put my limit order on as soon as that candle tagged me out, because the reason was I saw this structure right here where we were looking at basically just a trend up, and I think I even called it out on one of my recap videos. That's a hammer on glass formation. Um, in other words, we keep testing this line, and at some point that line's going to break, and eventually it did break, and it held up there, and that was the end of it. So I ended up re-entering long early in real life. In the back test, I wait for the hourly candle to close, and then I would be setting my limit order and looking for the entry. So in the back test, I re-entered on this candle, got about the same entry, same price, stop loss down here. I actually think on this one I put my stop loss down below this wick to give it extra room. And then there you have it. Nice and profitable trade, right? So we got a break. I took a loss right here. Technically, it was a green trade, but any other time you're taking a loss on this kind of an entry. And then it pulls back and tests the zone from the other side. That's what I'm calling a break and a retest. And so those a break and a retest seems to be a very profitable trading setup. And so that's probably the time that I need to say, okay, instead of going in with risking $500 per trade. What if we turn this into risk $1,000 per trade, per entry? Double up on this, go hard on this, because this is where it's really time to shine. This is where you're looking at a really good scenario, and that's when you should be willing to put up that risk and take on a little bit of additional risk to make that additional capital, because you have such a high win rate, such a high profit factor. Everything is saying that this is the setup. If you're gonna pick a time where you go hard, this is gonna be it. All right. The other instances, those are just pretty standard trades, but I am interested in seeing how this plays out moving forward. So finally, um, the other thing that I do want to point out is, oh, that's interesting. Why did that? Oh, sorry, we're still looking at break and retest. Let's get rid of that. We're going to look at this monthly widget down here. I don't think there's a way. Let's do this. I'll pull it up on this screen so it's actually bigger. So once again, this is all back tested. Through April, you're looking at a almost 10% increase on your account. Now, for people that are experienced traders, 10% in a month probably isn't all of that exciting. They're probably looking more at something like this, but for the rest of us that, just making money consistently would be fantastic. I did not make $5,000 in April, so it's just neat to look at this and say, okay, this is just blindly following the zones, letting the zones play out. You end up with, assuming a $50,000 account, about a 10% profit in April. And personally, if I make 10% every month on average, I'd be perfectly fine with that. Of course, I want to be able to do better, but 10% per month on average, not even considering compounding, is 120% a year. So, like, that's great. May blew it out of the water. Made $21,000, which is, let's just say 21,717 divided by 50. That's about 43%. Technically, that was about 55,000. So still, that's about 40% in a month. Once again, not compounding. You're risking the same amount every trade. So were you compounding on this would actually be higher, but that would involve doing more mental math for a backtest than I'm willing to do. So I'm just going to keep running the backtest, assuming that you risk the same thing every time, and just know that if you actually compound your results, you're going to end up making more. So there we have it. Win rate in April was 50%, so that's actually a pretty good representation of what's possible if you're only right half the time. Flip a coin, 50% of the time you're going to be right, and it ended up making about 10% on the total account. May had a 69% win rate. That is absolutely insane. I personally think that's an outlier. I don't think we're going to see something that high. And I kind of felt it when we were trading in May. I was like, this feels too easy. That 50% win rate I think is more realistic. I think it could be a little bit better, but like I said, on the overall system, we're looking at a 61% win rate right now. So if it maintains a 2-to-1 risk to reward with a 50% win rate, you're going to be just fine. So there you have it. There are the back tested results. My plan for this moving forward is going to be probably let a week pass and then just run the back test. And just be as objective as possible. It's super easy to try to skew your back tested results, um, to try to convince yourself that you would have actually done something when you didn't do it in real life, which is part of the reason why I'm just dialing in now and saying I need to trust my system, and that's that, and get over my fears and blah blah blah. Um, just trust the system, trust that it's going to play out the way that it needs to play out, trust the math behind it, and I'm going to be continuously running the back test along with my real trading because I can flip between the two portfolios super fast. So there you have it. I'm not doing as hot in real trading as I am in the back test. Um, but so I will be able to keep track of both of them side by side, and I'm basically going to use the back test to inform my real trading, and that'll also help to make sure that the zones are accurate and the results are mostly accurate, and yeah, it's going to be hopefully helpful for my actual personal trading. Finishing up this backtest and seeing the win rate, seeing the profit potential, seeing how well the math works out when you get those type 2 wins. That's really encouraging, really exciting. So that's going to be the thing that I focus on dialing in for myself in the next month. So hopefully at the end of June I can say, yeah, I did great. I actually followed the plan and I made a bunch of money. But we'll see how it works out at the end. If you want to follow along with my little trading adventure here on YouTube, you can click the subscribe button. I'm doing these videos just about every day. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, any data that you want me to pull from the backtest, if I can, I'll try to do it. There's some of you that are more data inclined than what I am and can probably put it to work better than I can, so hit me up if you have any questions, leave a comment, find me in Discord, and we can talk about it. So thanks for watching, have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.